I'm Dan Ackerman, and we're taking a look at that all-important question, what's faster, Apple's iPad or a netbook? Now, obviously, for basic computing tasks, some people say, oh, an iPad would be a lot better, that kind of stuff. Other people say a netbook would. You know, an iPad looks very fast, looks very responsive, but its whole operating system is kind of built around its hardware, while a netbook technically has more powerful hardware, but it's also trying to do the same things that a big full-size laptop does. In order to answer this all-important question, we grabbed our good friend Mr. Stopwatch, and we ran both systems through not terribly scientific, but real-world situations to see who would respond faster. First one, very important, a boot-up test. So we turned both systems on at the same time, two fingers, two different stopwatches. As you can see, the iPad finished its boot-up cycle first, followed by the netbook, took almost twice as long. Now, obviously, for this test, we've speeded this up so you can see this in kind of fast motion, but the iPad took 23.1 seconds to boot up, while the netbook took 50.5 seconds to boot up. That's almost twice as long. Now, our next test, we decided to load up our favorite website, cnet.com, and see how long it would take Safari on both systems to render that page. Now, for our next test, we obviously didn't need to speed this footage up. It only took 5.4 seconds for both of our browsers to boot up cnet.com. That's the Safari browser for the netbook and Safari Mobile for the iPad. So they're not exactly the same, but pretty darn close. And as you can see, web surfing really quick on both of these machines. Now, our next test is probably a little more technical. We took the SunSpider JavaScript test. That's a benchmark that will run your computer through a bunch of different JavaScript tests, repeat it a couple of times, then give you a time in milliseconds on how fast it ran. That's a great kind of cross-platform test. We could run both in Safari Mobile on the iPad and in the Safari browser on the netbook. So again, we had to speed up this test just to show it to you, but this shows you where the more powerful hardware for the netbook comes in. That completed the test in 2,272 milliseconds, while the iPad took a heck of a lot longer, 12,591 milliseconds to run through the same test. Now, a lot of people may say this is like comparing apples to oranges. Maybe some people would say it's more like oranges to tangerines. They're kind of different flavors of the same general sort of computing device. And as you can see, in some tasks, like boot up, the iPad is a lot faster because it's really optimized for its hardware. When you take a more general interest test, like our JavaScript test, that really relies on the computer hardware more, well, then obviously our netbook, even though it's a low-powered laptop, still a lot more powerful in terms of processing than the iPad. Well, that's going to do a heck of a lot better. I'm Dan Ackerman, answering the all-important question, what's faster, Apple's iPad or a netbook?